Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome, Renegades.
Welcome. We have an awesome interview for you today. And this, I can already tell this lady, I am so ready to ask you a million questions. You are so interesting. And already, and I'm ready for the listeners to hear your life, but your life is interesting. This is great.
Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, Katherine Drovdahl. Katherine is the owner of Fir Meadow LLC. Mm-hmm. And Fir Meadow, from my perspective, is a company that I've been utilizing for, I don't know, maybe 6 years, probably now, 6 or 7 years. And they sell all kinds of salves and balms and herbs and supplements. And there's both human and animal products on there. And we've been utilizing them for the animal products because anybody who's a listener on this podcast regularly might know that my husband and I have a small hobby farm. We have about 18 chickens and 6 goats, and we've got honeybees and all of those sorts of things. But I first discovered Katherine's products through a blog, I think, maybe that Katherine yourself wrote, because I was looking something up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but a specific condition for a chicken. Our chickens are our pets.
They're babies. They're your babies. Yeah.
Anyway, I was looking something up, and I think I found a blog and ended up ordering some products. And now, you guys, listeners, Fir Meadow products have been literally life-saving for our animals on multiple occasions. My husband and I were counting last night, probably no less than 8 occasions that we've used the products. I mean, we use them all the time, but that we've used the products in a way that has saved an animal's life when nothing else would have worked. So pretty amazing experiences. And I'll share some of those stories too in the podcast. But for now, I just want to introduce you, Katherine, and welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for placing your faith in sustainable wellness. Mm-hmm. And I fully believe in the herbs that our Creator granted to us to be there and be ready to help us with whatever our needs are, whether it's our personal health or that of our favorite furry and feathered friends. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
And you're not only a master herbalist, and I know in other countries that you're actually called a medical herbalist, which is really cool. And in the United States, though, we just have it master herbalist. Funny America. Okay. But also, you are a quantum touch energy practitioner and reflexologist, and you are a diplomat of
iridology.
You are so well-rounded in natural wellness, and then both in like this energy field as well as like the actual practical like herbs. Like, this is amazing. I want to know all about your life. How did you come into a natural way for both yourself and then for animals? I just want to know your whole life. Katherine,
tell us your story.
I'm so interested.
Well, really, it comes, I inherited a lot of it. My mother was German, and my German grandmother was a nurse in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and Germany never threw their herbs away. Mm-hmm. And even if you go into a pharmacy in Germany today, which I do when I'm there because I'm usually seeking herbs that I can't find where I live here, Again, they just have their herbs. So my grandmother was always making tinctures and salves and different things. And so they would come over for the summers and spend time with us in the summers. And she didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any German then, but I did understand a little bit. And it's just natural. And I've had a lifelong love of plants and animals. I remember the first thing I remember about plants was I was 4 years old asking my dad why there were flowers on the tree, and it was an apple tree, but I didn't know that at 4. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of went from there. I think animals, I've always loved animals. I've had my own horse since I was 8 years old. We had cows before then, and of course dogs and cats before then. I've had my whole life, except currently we don't have any animals, except I have wild lizards. I've had 2 geckos I've actually had to do herbalism with here that were injured. I had a chameleon that was injured, a Mediterranean chameleon. They're just wild little kids, but they show up here having needs, and so we take care of them.
Wow, that's so
And I
cool.
have other people.
Yeah, and for our listeners, Katherine lives in Portugal now, which is amazing. So that's why you have a lot of those cooler creatures that we don't see as much here in, well, the Midwest. But
Yeah, at least in the Midwest, yeah.
So cool. And could you tell our listeners why you're in Portugal?
Well, we are actually, my husband and I are lifelong residents and from Sequim in Port Angeles, Washington, which is on the North Olympic Peninsula. If anybody knows where that is in Washington State, it's like the thumb of Washington State, right across from Canada. And then we lived in Oregon for a few years, but the last few years now we've been called to be missionaries. So we are over here doing missionary work. And
So cool.
of course, I continue to take care of my customers stateside in Canada as well.
Which we're thankful for.
Yes, you are a busy lady, and we are so appreciative of all the service that you do. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Where did you get your schooling for the herbalists?
I went to the School of Natural Healing, which is based in Utah. The time I took it, it was still true correspondence. Online classes weren't developed yet. And I do really good with that. And then if you actually want the degree, then you have to go on site and damage your brain cells for a week of exams where we had 8 exams in 6 days. Oof. And the exam would be based on the lecture the day before. Mm-hmm. But that lecture built on everything you had learned the previous 2 years. So if you really hadn't done your work, there's no way you're getting through that.
Yeah.
All of that pretty brain dead, but it was also then that things really gelled and really came together. So it really was very valuable to do that.
Wow, very cool.
Wow. I want to lean into the herbalist side with the animals first before we talk about the quantum touch energy healing, because I want to do that next. But I'm just curious, what's the story of the first time that you used herbs to help an animal, and how did it feel, and what's the story?
Good question.
Oh my gosh, I have to remember the first time.
Or maybe the most memorable in the early time for you. Yeah.
Probably one of the earlier ones was we had a rooster that decided he was going to get really rough with the hens, and he actually stripped a hen down to the skull. And we know that with chickens, if there's any blood shown, the flock can get cannibalistic really quick.
Yeah.
And so we saw that and, of course, grabbed her.
Savage.
At that time, we were living in snow country in central Washington State. So it was too cold. It would have froze. So we brought her in, put her in a kennel in the kitchen. And I made it was before I was salving Wonderful Salve. I just had it as an oil and put it on there and watched it heal. Within about a week and a half, the feathers come in. That's one of the earlier ones. Got her well, put her back out. Rotten Rooster did it a second time. And I thought, no, for sure we're going to lose you. This is the second time. Chickens don't like stress like that either. Yeah. And got her in, took care of her. And before we put her out, we turned somebody into soup and then put her back out. We found a friendlier rooster.
Yeah.
So that was one of the early ones.
That was a happy ending to a sad story. I'm glad you ate him.
Yeah, and I have to say, too, because I'll just have some stories I can throw in here. Yep. But Katherine knows I emailed her last summer, but we had a chicken buckbeak who was the first chickens we raised from chicks. So we inherited, when we first started our chicken farming, we inherited 3 older hens and then bought chicks that same year. And so Buckbeak was the first chick we bought and raised. So I'm very attached to her. She's 8 years old now.
Yeah, she lived with you.
Yes.
Inside the house.
Yeah, and she got attacked by an owl, and the wound was the size of about a golf ball, and we could see her intestines through it, and we didn't think it was going to be a good ending at all. But she was alive still and kind of trying to make an effort to survive. So I just thought, well, we'll give her everything we've got. Mm-hmm. And we showed a picture to the vet, and they said, there's not really a lot we can do. She's probably not going to make it. Even if she does make it, think about like the long term. How is it going to heal? Is it going to heal? It looks like it's too big of a wound to do anything with. You should just put her down. And I emailed Catherine.
They're like, it's a chicken. And you're like, no, this is buckbeak.
Oh, this is buckbeak. I emailed Catherine and I had some of your Wonderful Salve, which is a product they sell on the Fir Meadow website. It's called Wonderful. And so I said, I have that. Can I pack the wound? And we packed it with this Wonderful Salve. Yes, there it is. If you have your video.
I love that you have a picture
there
of
it
it. Amazing. A great name.
Yeah.
Great name.
We packed the wound with that. And then an herbiotic blend that Catherine also sells. That's a natural antibiotic. And so it was helping keep bacteria out of the wound because obviously with this, yes, there it is, the herbiotic.
Herbiotic. Oh, I love it.
Which is a powder. And so it sounded crazy, but Catherine was like, pack it with the powder, pack it with the balm, like literally shoving powder and balm into this giant wound in her side.
Yes.
And we kept her inside. You know, I think she was inside with us in our guest bedroom for probably 6 weeks to 8 weeks, almost 2 months.
Yeah, lived with you, like was paying rent in your house. Yes.
Yeah, while this wound was healing over. And I could not believe it, but the wound closed up, healed completely. I mean, she has scar tissue and it's kind of like tight, but she survived this massive, intense wound and is back outside. She's lived another year. She's out there now with the rest of the chickens, walks with a bit of a limp. But other than that, could not believe it. Did not expect her to survive. Huge wound, huge potential for infection. She never had any issues using only herbal products.
No way. Okay, Catherine, I got to talk to you about that. What's an herb that you love that just keeps away bacteria or whatever? And then how do you have such like powerful belief in the healing? Like, you got to talk to me. How did this work? How did this work?
Because God put phytochemicals in the plants, knowing ahead that we would need them for injuries and illnesses. You know, I didn't create the herbs. I just assembled them. But of course, we use the highest quality herbs that can be sourced in the world.
Wow.
And my manufacturer sources organic whenever possible. It's not always possible because not every country has that kind of program.
Yep.
But combined with, again, education in pharmacognosy, which is plant chemistry, learning how to counter effects maybe in some herbs that you use, also learning how to make synergistic formulae. So it's not just one herb. You can use just one herb, but I'm also a vitalist, which is a very narrow band of herbalism. A vitalist is cause-oriented, which means I'm not going to look at just the symptoms. I want to get to the underlying problem that's causing the symptoms, and I need to address that as well, or we're not going to get the results that we're hoping to get. We're not going to get the body well. This sounds weird, but I don't want to have a horse or a chicken or a dog or a human having the same problem and buying herbs for the rest of their life just because it makes me more money. I want to see them get well. And so that's the goal. So we want to see them get well. And sometimes, like in autoimmune situations, or if we don't catch something soon enough, you know, maybe we don't have enough time, but I never determine whether we have enough time or not, because there's crazy stories out there. So we just don't know. So if people want to go for it, I'm there to help them go for it. And if it's a chicken and it's special to you, it's special to me. It doesn't matter what it is. I will work with anything.
Wow, that's really neat and really powerful. That's really cool.
I love that. Yeah. So I'm curious, for the animals, like what drove you to pursue the holistic health for animals as well as humans?
Well, because of my lifelong love for animals. Again, I've had horses since I was 8 years old, was in 4-H, did all that. Always had dogs. We usually always had cows. My husband and I, when we got married, we would raise pigs. I showed dairy goats for 20 years in the American Dairy Goat Association, and by God's blessing, have goats in 3 different countries and all of the states. Our genetics are in all the states, including Hawaii, which is very limited in Hawaii. And some of our lines are still showing. I think we had a 3rd place at nationals this year. And actually the total performer La Mancha Dairy Goat was one of my Fir Meadow goats that another owner has owned since she was a kid. So she's done the great work of raising her and keeping her well nourished and all of that.
Wow. Amazing.
So, and we had alpacas. There's not too much we haven't had. We've had poultry, various types of poultry, different things.
Wow.
So it's just natural for me to not want to use chemicals with the animals either. I've always been organic before organic really was even a word. I've just always wanted to keep things natural rather than toxify.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I think it's really neat that you always went with your instinct of like go with natural and like I love animals. I'm going to stick up for animals. Like that's really cool that you kind of answered that calling. Yeah.
Now on your website, when you are looking at ordering a product, it says you use medicinal grade herbs and essential oils. For our listeners, what does that mean? And what's kind of the difference between just regular herbs that you might buy and medicinal grade herbs? And how do you guys incorporate that into your products?
Okay. So there is no grading system for herbs, and I'm sorry, there's no official grading standard for essential oils. People will say, well, are yours therapeutic grade? Well, if you smell it and it makes you smile, boom, it's therapeutic. It's not defined by the United States or by the FDA. We don't have definitions for these words, so they get thrown around loosely. So medicinal grade is a word that I use with mine. It's not, again, it's not an FDA back because they're never going to give that kind of support to an herb anyways.
Right.
But I have what I discuss when I teach at conferences is there's toilet grade and there's average grade and there's medicinal grade. Toilet grade is most of what you find on the shelves at the store. It's not all of them, but it is most of them. If you pick up a product and it says magnesium stearate in the back, that's only there so that capsule machines can run faster so the company can make more money. They're not looking out for your health. You know now they're going to take shortcuts on product.
Wow, interesting.
So they may use an inferior batch of herbs, or we just don't know. They still have to do testing by law, but there's no testing for quality of herb that's required.
Right.
So a lot of times when customers would bring to me what they were using maybe for themselves or their animals, we'd pull some of my product out and do a comparison. I'd have them taste and smell and look, and usually a large difference. So toilet grade is literally that, or compost grade is I just say flush it down the toilet, or you spent money on it, use it up, but then now you know better, so do better for yourself.
Yeah.
So that you can actually move forward. And then there's average grade. When I work with herbs, we should be seeing something within a week. If it's a heart attack, we will see something the same day.
Yeah.
If they're the quality we need. And so we're a stroke or concussion, we'll see stuff the same day. But so what I call medicinal grade is actually really, really high quality herbs. People usually can smell them through the bags, and these are, I have to, by law, I have to have them manufactured commercially. I'm not allowed to manufacture myself. And so that's consistent with the United States. It's consistent with the EU. But these are sealed, and you can still a lot of times smell herb through them. I've had customers use, as far as I know, the oldest I've had customers use is herb 7 years old. And then I upped the dosage, and they still accomplished what we needed to accomplish. But, I don't recommend depending on that if you're in an emergency. But
Right.
Or people can take one of these and throw it in a freezer bag and throw it in their freezer, and it will keep forever.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, we have just in our emergency bag, because I always tell people, I've had a few people consult me who want to start, getting chickens or goats. And I'm like, before you get anything, you need to go to Fir Meadow website and you need to buy their herbs, and you need to set up have
it on hand,
your first aid kit. because you want to have it on hand.
Because to ship it, a week or two later, it's too late for the animal. Yeah.
You may not use it, but you want to have it. And we had some just in our emergency first aid kit, several years old. That was a sort of, I can't remember what the product was now, but it was a product to help with any sort of like detoxification. And we had a goat get into rat poison and eat rat poison that now is no longer there, but it was there at the time. Yes. Yeah. And it was several years old when we pulled it out, and we were like, okay, this is an emergency. She's going to die. And we kind of just forced it down her throat, and she fully recovered pretty much immediately. Like,
I love this.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I told you, I have at least 8 different stories. Yeah. So your herbs are extremely powerful. And I think part of what I wanted this episode for today is for people who have pets, because it can be, just your household dog or cat.
Yep.
Or if you have any farm animals, it's such a great option. And we talk a lot about the human nutrition side of things, and you do have products for that as well. But if you experience the quality, the amazing powers of the herbal products on your animals, you'll have no doubt that it could help with humans as well.
That is amazing. Now, I know that you have like years of education, but is there kind of a quick overview, just so our listeners get a taste of like your language and how you talk, of the power of the herbs? Like, what are some of the health conditions that animals frequently suffer from, and then what herbs and essential oils can help? Just talk us through that a little bit, just so we kind of get an idea of like the language of what this is and kind of the power of what you can do.
Okay, so I want to give a quick little just note on essential oils. And of course, I do work with them. I have international certification from 2 different schools for them. But I don't rely on essential oils heavily, not on a day-to-day basis normally, because they will backlog in the liver, and now you're going to deteriorate liver tissue. So I use it mainly for emergencies, to pop something fast. And then I will take over with the herbs, and I'll pop it also with herbs, but then I will take over with herbs that are providing a full spectrum of nutrition, because the thing with essential oils is you only have the fat soluble nutrients, and they're they're just made so much stronger when they have that in that process. Like you can have a dump truck load of some plants like lemon verbena, you can have a dump truck load literally in 2 or 3 bottles of product. Wow. And so they're very, very strong. And so while we want to utilize them, we need to respect them, because now we're moving towards medicine. We've lost the complete balance of a whole herb. We believe that when we can leave the plant in whole herb form, that all the phytochemicals or plant chemistry, even the ones we haven't discovered yet, that they are in balance with the plant. And it's very interesting with plants, because you will not get the same plant year to year to year, even in the same soil, because when it was picked affects the chemical balance. What were the weather conditions this year? What's the soil like this year? Is it early spring? Is it late fall? Depending on what plants, depending on when they're harvested. How were they treated? Was the sun extra hot when it was drying? Were they dried or processed mechanically? There's all these factors that change the plant. But what's very interesting in the plant, even though their chemistry goes up and down all the time, the plant still stays in balance with itself. And we can't duplicate that in science. So when I have people show me a bottle and it'll guarantee 23% berberine or so many milligrams of this or micrograms of that, that means that it went to a scientific lab and they tweaked it to guarantee that, because you're not going to find that, which means what? It's now thrown out of balance, which means we can end up with side effects down the road.
Wow.
So that's why it's just safest to stay whole herb. Essential oils are awesome. I am writing a book for animals on essential oils. There's not much out there. I haven't seen any dosing out there.
Yeah.
So I've got all of that cracked out, and I'm working on that so that we can have that resource. But just remember, respect them, get more information, don't keep your animals on them more than a few days at a time. And then it's still very limited amounts because we don't want to overwhelm the liver. We're going to send the health backwards.
Wow, good to know.
Wow. And we're a nutrition podcast and, with all of our guests on for nutrition and, of course, what Eleni says, but same with food. If you keep it how God put it on earth as a whole item, then it's healthier for you. It's when we process it and we manipulate the food and take it out of how God made it that our body doesn't respond as well. So that's really neat that that same theory works in your practice very well. But so fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the health conditions that animals frequently suffer that you kind of have some herbs that can help people with? I'm not specifically, not everything you do, but what are some that you common see?
Yeah. So anyway, I do work with every condition.
Wow.
And injuries. So we can work with anything. My education is extremely well-rounded. And of course, I've been practicing for maybe 15 years now. Wow. So you see a lot of things, obviously, when you're working on a national and sometimes international level. But some of the real common ones with dogs, I'm seeing a lot. People are coming to me for MMM, which is the muscular autoimmune disease where their muscles begin to waste away. Usually it's in their jaw, the mandibular area, and then the head will start sinking in. It can be in other areas, but that seems to be common. The dogs get to where they can no longer eat, and then usually they have to be put down at some point because, you can't keep them on IVs forever for nourishment. We've had really good success with that if we can get them early. We still will work with them later. The trick with autoimmune conditions is the immune system has a memory, and the longer condition goes, the harder we have to fight the immune system. And we don't want to shut the immune system down, and we don't, but we want to re-educate it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to re-educate an old dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say old dogs don't learn new tricks.
That's right.
The immune system can be like that. Uh-huh. So, but at the very least, we can usually still get a good quality of life. That one's real common. Diabetes in dogs now. I'm a firm believer that the new number of vaccines that we give, and each person has to make their own decisions on that, but that the number that we're at this point really can set a lot of things up for autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
So if a dog's not overweight and they're developing these things, I deal with a lot of cancers with dogs. Cats, again, it's feline leukemias. We have to catch those fast. Or they are not a good story, obviously. Horses, it will be colics and I get a lot of injuries with them. Colics, hives, allergies, respiratory stuff, sometimes navicular. I get those. With cattle, usually it's like pneumonia and scours and calves. That's what I tend to get a lot of. Parasite control in any of the animals. With sheep, usually of all the things I get, it's usually mastitis. Wow. That's what I tend to run into the most. Sheep tend to be real hardy because they tend to be not babied like a pet. And so they have to develop really hardy and stay really hardy. So as long as they're getting their necessities, usually they're doing really good. So we get failure to thrives in all of the animals where they're just not uptaking their nutrition. I work with those. Almost always we can get them turned around. And if we get them early enough, usually they will catch up in size too and weight. Wow. So that's one thing that's kind of fun with these products is because of my background with livestock and pets and because of my degrees, I was able to formulate so that any species can have this. Even bees can have these. You will just make a tea and put it in their water.
Really?
Or you can,
what?
Or you can extract a little bit into their honey that they're eating.
Okay, this is good to know. Yeah. This is good to know. I did not know that.
So do you actually kind of people would call you come look at their animal and then you prescribe things? Or do you have on your website, like, let's say I have a pig who's limping, or I don't know. Like, how would I know what to get on your website? Or can I talk to you? Or how does that work?
generally people will fill out a contact form. I have to, especially with the United States, I cannot in any way look like I am practicing medicine as a veterinarian or as an MD because I do not have those licenses.
I see.
So I do not go to places and assess animals.
Okay.
But people can come to me on a contact form and say da 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 da. If it's as simple as just one or two products, I'll go, yeah, get these, do this. But if they've got a more complex problem, if they've got a cancer, if they've got an autoimmune, they've got a diabetes, with goats, oh gosh, with goats, we get all kinds of conditions, lungs and coccidia issues, barber pole issues, bottle jaw issues. A lot of those are parasitic. I get a lot of failure to thrive. I've gotten babies from barn fires where they've lost part of their hide. We've just gotten all kinds of things with goats because I'm so well known in the dairy goat industry from showing and being involved on a national level.
Wow.
But anyways, forgot where we were going with that.
Oh yeah. So how do you help people know what herbs?
How do they find out?
Yeah.
So there's contact forms. Remember, I'm working with herbs. The FDA does not approve herbs, but they control us. They control every little stupid little thing that goes on a label.
Yep.
People are like, why don't you put this on there? Because the FDA doesn't let us.
Uh-huh.
And my vocabulary is, I do not have freedom of speech rights with vocabulary as an herbalist. So what I'm able to state on the website is not a whole lot. Even the products that I encourage people to use if they're having a parasite problem, I can't use the word parasites with it. So sometimes people contact me and they go, I can't find what I'm supposed to use. And I go, I'm really sorry, but the FDA won't let me say that. So yeah. And most people don't know this stuff and they put that stuff on their website and they are waiting for the FDA to come knock on their door with a big, huge fine and shut them down. So you have to pay attention to that stuff.
Yep.
So, but what I am able to share is, if my dog was doing that, then I would do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I can share with them what I would be doing if I was in that situation. Also, there are a lot of reviews on the products, and sometimes people will find their situation in a review.
Mm-hmm. I love it. There's ways around it.
But I am just a contact form away.
That's amazing that you're that available to help people. Like I didn't expect that from an owner of a company. So thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I know even for us for conditions, I mean, it's been just endless, but I know a common one for dogs is, especially some breeds of dogs, is like hip dysplasia. And we had a family on our street that had a dog. They don't live here anymore, but they had a dog that had hip dysplasia, and the dog would lay in the middle of the road on the hip. I think it was the only thing that gave it some relief. And first of all, I'm a bleeding heart and I felt bad for the dog, but I also was tired of almost running it over every day because that's where it would lay. It just wanted to lay right in the middle of the asphalt on the road that I drove on to and from work. And so
it's warm there. Yeah.
I finally just bought them some aching joint from Catherine's website.
I love this.
It's a product called Aching Joint. I bought that for them and I gave it to them. I said, hey, give this to your dog. Like if anything else, it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt, but it might help. And, within a few days, that dog was up and running around and not laying down on the
laying in the middle of it
anymore. I did. Yes, there it is. The Aching Joint.
What?
Yes. Yeah. So I did the whole neighborhood a favor with that one.
Yes.
And I know hip dysplasia is a common one for dogs, that people deal with.
Yep.
And so there really I want people to understand there are so many answers for things that I think we've been told, like, oh, this is a common condition.
And the modern dog. Yep.
Yeah. And you can just help them get through it or whatever. But I really feel like there's so much that we can do to help our animals thrive.
Yes.
And just like we always talk about on this podcast with people, we want to get to the root issue of things. And when you get to the root issue of things, it's amazing what can change, what can happen. And suddenly conditions that we're told will never go away. Or that we have to live with do go away and do get better. I mean, it's just amazing. So there really is, I think, like Katherine said, she's dealt with everything. There really is an answer for just about everything. And there may be, like you said, some cases that are too advanced to fully just completely heal. But you could help and give them some quality of life in the meantime. And so I really think it's so important for us to understand there are herbal remedies, there are ways, there are salves, there are balms, there are things we can do to help our little furry, feathery friends in a natural way. Yep. And I think, one of the questions that I had that I wanted to address for our listeners is, talking about herbs and natural treatments. How do they work compared to conventional? Are they better? What could people expect? And then why would you want to use a natural treatment? So for like a household pet, I think people understand, I want to be organic with a dairy goat because I'm drinking the milk, or organic with a chicken because I'm eating the eggs. But why do people want to go natural with a household pet that they're not going to eat or milk from?
Okay. So we'll get to the first part of that question. I'll have you re-ask me that.
Yeah.
But as far as differences between herbs and chemicals, so prescriptions, I don't know if you know this, but they are sourced from oil, petroleum products.
Yes. Yep.
They come from oil. I have yet to be able to solve an eye problem with an oil deficiency.
Yeah.
Right. Not yet run into a dairy goat with an oil deficiency.
Right.
And I'm talking black crude stuff. And I don't want to be facetious or anything, but I know that when doctors go to school, by and large, I believe most of them went to school to become medical professionals because in their hearts, they want to help people.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they do not understand what the education is like now and what they're going to end up with for an education. They get most of their classes end up being pharmaceuticals, and they get taught pharmaceutical this, pharmaceutical that. If they very, very far out of that, they can get their license pulled. So once they're in that and they have their incredible school debt and all of that, even if they begin to realize that maybe there's a different way, they're kind of really caught in a trap. So, and when we have our universities, they are funded heavily by grants from pharmaceutical companies.
Amen.
So the pharmaceutical companies get to control the education. They go, you can't teach on that. And no, you can teach this. But again, so, if they're needing to do research on a pet project or they want that new equipment, they have to do what the pharmaceutical companies wish. So that's very unfortunate. That's where we're at right now as a country, and in many places of the world as well. But I choose to go with herbs for many reasons. When's the last time you read about a dandelion poisoning in a dog?
Right.
Or raspberry poisoning in a dog. We lose 25,000 people a year from taking aspirin.
Wow.
They hemorrhage on it.
Wow.
25,000 people from one simple over-the-counter remedy.
Yeah.
Wow.
When have you read about raspberry killing somebody?
Right.
Wow.
Raspberry tea. So we're going to, and I could go on, but we're going to really increase our safety. We're not as long, and I should clarify herbs. When I'm working with herbs, there are 3 rules that my herbs have to follow and abide by. They cannot be habit forming. They cannot be toxic.
Yep.
And it sounds different, but and they cannot create side effects.
Yeah.
Aside from occasionally you will get an allergic reaction to a plant because everybody's a unique chemical complex because we do not live in a pure world. Every animal, every person, and sometimes you can end up with a chemistry experiment that doesn't go well. And of course, so, ideally people can start something small, do a test and make sure it's okay. I probably only run into 1 or 2, maybe 2 animals in 15 years that wouldn't utilize them because of that kind of an issue. But it is certainly a possibility, and usually a greater possibility in humans than it is animals. But so we're looking at that. We're looking at availability. We've seen on the news a few times, remember they ran out of baby formula?
Yeah.
Sometimes now we're hearing on the news, animal pharmaceuticals, injectables, or people medications running out, especially during COVID when there was all these freezes going on, and we've had some afterfall from that. Um, you know, if it's the right time of year, you can go pick a dandelion in your yard. If it's the wrong time of year, you can go dig up the roots.
Yeah, right.
And I have worked with people that have had emergencies and they live out in Timbuktu. They don't have an herb store in town. We have an animal that's dying. It's okay. Let's go dig through your herb cabinet, even if it's spices, but I have to really increase the doses because most spices, unfortunately, are toilet grade. They've
Right.
sat under fluorescent lights sometimes for years before that bottle's ever opened, the way things are stored. But we start thinking, okay, what's out in your yard? Okay, what about this plant? What about that plant? What can we find? And we can do it
Wow.
at 2 a.m. if we have to.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing and so true.
Night, other than ER, and who wants to go to ER as a human and sit there for probably going to be hours unless you've severed a limb? It's very hard to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Without it being hours. So,
Yeah.
Or again, with animals, I'm from an area where there is no longer any after hours veterinary services.
Oh,
Wow.
1.5 to 2 hours away, and they will charge horse prices. So you're going to be into $1,500 really fast if you have to do an after hours call. I can't do that with a chicken. I'm sorry. I have a budget too,
Yeah,
or, even for a horse, for most people, especially with today's inflation, it is really difficult to get put in a position where you have to choose between, okay, is my horse going to make it? Or I can't afford to call the vet.
Wow.
What am I going to do?
Right.
That is just reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where we are as a country right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gotten difficult for a lot of people. It actually COVID really hurt my business for a while because people had to sell out because feed prices started going through the roof, or they had to cut herds way back.
Wow.
And of course, I wasn't counting on that. And we've already discussed I don't take very much out of my business because it's a growing business. So I have to keep rolling it right back in, right back in, right back in. So I'm almost for free, not quite, but almost. I love what I do, and I love being able to give hope to people with their animals or with their humans. I helped a family member recently with a baby that was dying, which did have to go and be in NICU for a while, but gave her some education on some support stuff she could do. That little baby should be dead. So that is one thing, though, is if you have an emergency and you're not confident with herbs, go get medical intervention, get them stabilized, and then take over with herbs. We can clean, if we have to, we can clean medications back out. It takes a while. But, if it's a true emergency, you need to go in, or maybe we need a diagnosis. I can get a lot of clues from symptoms, but we don't always know what's going on. And sometimes symptoms can mask a concurrent issue going on.
Yeah, right.
So those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think that's, we've talked on the podcast before that I think the most beautiful future for medicine and veterinary medicine is the joining of the modern medical world with the old time wisdom
and
of the ancient and the functional, and like actually using both, because the conventional medicine is great for acute care. And we really do need to use what they're good at, and the things that they're not so good at, we get some experts in,
Yeah. And so it seems like for somebody who has like a household pet, it's the same reason you would want to treat your own health naturally. There's less of a risk of side effects. There's less of a risk of accidental overdose or poisoning. It sounds like it's just a much safer option to go with herbs, even if they're a high grade therapeutic medical grade herb. To treat an animal with that, a household pet, if you want them to not have to deal with the fallout of chemicals
yes
being introduced to their bodies, because all human experiments where we decide that pharmaceuticals are okay usually start in animals. So we know that products can affect animals the same way that they affect humans. So if you're getting side effects from whatever allergy medication or heart medication you're taking, then you can imagine that your animals would be feeling side effects as well, even if they can't express it. So having the herbal natural treatments for them seems like a much better way to ensure they get all of, first of all, to the root of the health issue, and then second of all, healing without creating bigger problems down the road.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, another thing that herbs do is they provide nutrition. Pharmaceuticals are completely devoid of that, of course.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that. I think I had just emailed you this past summer with a sick chicken, and she had listeriosis.
Okay.
And I thought listeria is it's a big problem in chickens. If they get it, they don't usually survive, right? So, and I was concerned about her getting nutrition, and I was like, should I give her vitamins or something? Because she's not eating anything, and I'm worried about her becoming deficient in the B vitamins. And you were like, oh, well, the herb product that you're giving her is full of B vitamins. She's getting all the nutrition she needs from that. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. So it's okay if she's not eating for a few days. I can just work with her on these herbs. Yeah, yep.
Cool. Better days. Cool. That leads me to, this question. You've showed us a couple of your packets here, but what are some of your best-selling products, and what do they help with?
Okay. The most popular one of all, I sell almost more of this than the others combined. Not
Okay.
quite, but almost. And it's our flagship product. It's DWA.
Okay.
And it's usually what people buy the first time they come visit our site. And it's for animals that are dealing with parasite issues to support their bodies. Obviously, the FDA is not going to allow me to say a whole lot.
Yes.
But if I'm having a parasite issue, that's definitely where I'm going to go, no matter what kind of animal it is. When we have small pets like cats and dogs, and I'm going to include poultry in this too. So poultry walk on their feces, right? And then they peck at stuff they walked at. So there's a really high rate of reinfection with them. Cats and dogs, they lick their bottoms, they lick their paws. So they also have a very high rate of reinfection. Livestock do and don't, depending on the pasture and how infected it is. If people are doing a short graze or letting grass grow long, things like that. But definitely with the pets and poultry, I encourage people to just use it daily, because they're probably infecting themselves close to a daily rate. And even livestock in the winter, if they're in barns and stuff, unless that barn floor is freezing several inches thick, you are not removing the parasites in there.
Wow.
And I've raised goats. Somebody drops hay on the ground and somebody's hiding under the feeder to snag it because they're low on the totem pole. They're going to, be more susceptible to problems that way. So, so that's the most popular one.
And that's DWA.
Yeah. For people that live, when I first made it quote unquote means deworm all animals. Is what deworm. But again, I cannot make any claims. But if I have those problems, that's what I would be utilizing to support that animal. I have herbs in there also to help support them with the damage that might be caused, to encourage their bodies to heal themselves, things like that. So it's not just a one-faceted product. This is probably my second highest seller, and it's what people frequently use it together with the other one. If they have coccidia where they are, very common with poultry, very common with small livestock, sometimes large livestock, or barber pole worm is a huge problem with ruminants, especially in any humid parts of the country. But it's some animals move around enough that so many people have actually imported it to their farms. If they were clean before, they buy an animal from an infected area. They don't quarantine them. They let them defecate on their property. And now they've inherited a nice little problem that they never wanted to have, because that one is ruthless. It will drop animals really fast.
And that product is the GI Soother.
Yeah, I use it for that. I also use it to support animals that are having diarrheas that are GI sourced. If they're liver sourced, then we go to Fresh Start. And usually a liver sourced will be because there's a toxin and it creates a diarrhea. They ingested a mushroom, they ingested a bacterium or something that's lodging in the liver. But this one tends to be for GI source or my failure to thrives. I get them on this because there's herbs in here that also help the intestines to renew themselves if they have scar tissue or damage. It provides for them what they need to try to heal themselves. So, or, we get animals that don't have much of an appetite. We'll get them on this because maybe their tummy hurts. Maybe they have an ulcer. Maybe, I mean, they can only tell us by change of attitudes. They don't take their paw and point at their tummy and say, Mom, it hurts down here.
Right.
Something's off. Gosh, you're not wanting to eat. Your temperature's normal. I don't know what's going on, Get them looked at if they look serious, but we get them on stuff like this.
Wow.
So probably the third most popular product, and usually most of my customers get all three. Gotta find where I got it. Is that Better Days?
Better
and this
Days.
one we are allowed to put on it by the FDA. They decided a year ago that animals actually can have supplements. We can use that word with them now. So our labels actually change about every 6 months because the FDA makes different decisions about that often on labels. So we use this for a nutritional supplement to just cover a ton of bases nutritionally. Really popular with failure to thrive, very popular with animals that need to heal from something, maybe injuries or from a long illness or a quote unquote terminal illness. They're not always terminal, but they get labeled that way. Or pregnant stock, pregnant dogs. This is really popular with kennels that raise show dogs. They have pregnant dogs. They will add it to the supplemental feeding for the puppies. It just encourages their bodies to try to reach the genetic potential that they spent the money and the time and the thinking behind the breeding programs to produce. It helps them to get closer to realizing that.
Wow. So cool. Yeah. And those are the three we have.
Yep.
Kay could walk out this door right now and see the shelf by our back door here.
Yep, I recognize what those look like because Eleni has them.
And we always have the DWA, the GI Soother, and the Better Days. Those are always on our shelf for both our chickens and our goats, and they're part of just their regular rotation. And we start, both our goats and our chickens as babies on those herbs.
So every day you give them a little or
we kind of rotate through them, so they end up getting several servings a week. We kind of rotate through them, but from the time that we bring a chick home, that's in its feed.
You mix it with the feed.
We mix it with the feed because when they're a day old chick, they don't know any different. That GI Soother, they don't know any different. We just mix it in.
Does it have the dosage on the back, how much to give them?
Dosages are by weights, and of course nobody weighs chicks, but you can weigh them, estimate total. I've got 5 chicks, they weigh this, and so I've got 2 pounds worth of chicks here, so I'm going to look on the back and pull the dose for 2 pounds.
Okay, I'm going to ask a very not FDA approved question. I'm like the GI Soother. I feel like my husband needs that. Is this human? Can I give this to a human, or is that FDA not okay?
Okay. So what I can tell you is my products are manufactured according to standards set by the FDA for humans. And that is a requirement. Not all of the companies with animal products do that, but that is a federal requirement. Wow. So they go through all the lab work and all the testing. The question is I cannot afford the insurance for human products.
So true. I hear that.
We do not come close to the volume and sales required. It's become more and more difficult. Yeah. Even the manufacturer I use, when I first started working with them, they had a reasonably low amount I could do on a product run. Say it was a product that we, only sell, 2 a month or something. I could do a reasonably low product run and do it. Well, they've changed that since then. So people starting out now, you have to have the price of a small car to do a single product run on one product.
Yeah. Yep. Business
So
is
that's why my money
expensive.
gets rolled right back in,
Yes.
because I've
Yes.
got to have it ready to get the next product going.
Yes. Yes. Well, I need to support this company because this is amazing and you need to have your company forever. And what you're doing is so brilliant. And I hope you have your recipes somewhere that you put in a book one day that, when you retire in 30 years, maybe Elaine and her husband will buy it and continue it. Actually, I can so see you doing that.
I
to
know.
be
I
honest.
would. I would love that.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow. Really cool.
So really, truly, I think there's obviously people need to use their own judgment, but there's no condition in an animal or really even a human that these herbal products can't help. I mean, aside from, like you said, severing a limb or something.
Yes,
But
yes.
even that, you can just put some of the wonderful on it as part of the healing process once you get the urgent care.
We cannot officially say that on this podcast, Eleni. There is no FDA approval of any. This is amazing, though. Okay, so animal-wise, though, we're on it, and I'm gonna look at dosage. I'm gonna look at weight. I got a dog now. I'm gonna give him the which helps with his joints. Or
Aching joint.
The achy joints. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna do all that.
The aching joint. Yeah.
Or do you want a little spiel on the other products really fast?
Yes,
Yes, we'd love
absolutely.
that.
I would
What's
use
the
them
name of
for-
that one?
Okay, so this one is aching joint.
Yep.
I actually developed this, oh gosh, a long time ago. I had a person come to me that had a rescue horse from a laboratory that was used to produce urine to make Premarin with, which meant she stood on concrete 24/7, tied in a tiny stall, and they injected her so that she was just producing urine all
Oh
the
my
time.
God.
That's so sad.
And the horse, yeah, I know. And the horse was to the point where it couldn't walk very much. It was laying down most of the time. They were giving it Banamine, but Banamine, you have a high risk of crystallization in the kidneys. And if that happens, then you lose your horse or animal to that. So I developed the pre-runner to this product, threw something together for her. And in 2.5 weeks, the horse was running and bucking,
Wow.
which
I believe it.
couldn't believe myself. I was like, I know I can get this horse more comfortable, but this was when I was still in school. And so I'm watching this stuff happen in front of me. And so that was the precursor to this. This is with the full education and a whole lot more experience behind it now. I say there's a hug in every bag.
I
But-
love it.
But so we use this one for pain and inflammation to give the animal the support they need to see if their body will cope with that.
Wow.
So anything like that, whether it's a condition or an injury, then we would support with that.
That's amazing.
Oh,
Now I'm
Fresh
gonna go rescue
Start.
a horse.
I
Fresh
use
start.
this one to support the liver and kidneys to help the body to clean toxins out and to help the body renew the cells to a healthier liver, a healthier liver. There we go. Anyway, with the liver and kidneys, approximately every 4 months, yours is brand new cell for cell.
Wow.
Like you got a brand new one. That's good news or that's bad news. Did the body get what it needs to make healthier cells, or did the body not? And so now the cells have degraded one. So if you have an 8-year-old dog times 3 approximate regenerations per year, you're now 24 regenerations in. Is that good news or bad news? That's why the body can heal itself. If it gets what it needs, if it gets the toxins cleaned out of the body, then the cells are able to replicate to a healthier version of themselves because they want to replicate back to their DNA. But they have to have the Legos to do it. No Legos, no rebuilding. So,
Yep.
so I
Absolutely.
provide the Legos. And the body does the work. I don't do any of the work. The body does the work as God developed and intended when He created. So,
Absolutely.
and I have immune.
Yeah.
That's for immune system support. So really good for people if they're showing animals, selling animals, moving animals. Weather goes freaky on you. Before birthing, whether it's whelping or kidding or lambing or calving or, anything, any of those pigs, anything. In goats, you have to differentiate depending on the length of gestations. But in goats, they drop their immune system about a month before kidding, and it stays dumped to a month after. That's why people say they're so parasite susceptible then. Yes, they are, because their immune system dumped. So that's not attacking this pregnancy in the last stages. So it's a really good time to get them on something like this. Or, you have an animal that's just, they're not doing that great. They haven't been feeling well, or they get sick easy or stuff like that. Then we put them on this. The beauty of it is if they didn't need it, it doesn't hurt them. Hey, it just nourishes. That's all it does. Their body decides what to do with it. And the other thing is it works depending on the animal and their wellness level, anywhere from 3 to 6 to 8 hours. It's already burned up and no longer out of the system, which is different, of course, from synthetics or prescriptions because they have half-lives. I know a dose of Haldol, it takes a month to get rid of the first dose.
Wow.
And Haldol is used for some mind control things. But these, they're peed out the same day or worked out the same day. So they're very safe. That's why they don't build up in the system. So even like here's breathe deeply. So animals with respiratory challenges. It helps support the lungs. Herbiotic is not a probiotic, and we're not allowed to even use that term with livestock products. Or poultry products. You'll see it in the store, but they can get in trouble for it. So we're not allowed to use that. But herbiotic is not that. I use it in the same way that I would use if I'm dealing with any illness or any infection. I'm going to use this to support the body.
Amazing.
I have that on my shelf as well.
Do you? The whole closet.
One of those that I get people that get freaked out that, the mail can get it to them in 1 to 5 days. But if they have the situation where they want this, usually they need to be using it now. So this is one of those I encourage people have one on hand. Put it in a freezer bag, throw it in your freezer. You'll have it for years and years and years, and it's right there ready to go if you need it.
Yes, when Buckbeak got attacked by the owl, I had to order that product.
And you're like,
and after
shipping.
after that, I was like, this will always be on our shelf at all times. And it did save our chicken's life when she had that listeria infection. And if we hadn't had it, I don't think she would have survived because that was a very advanced infection. And I don't think if we hadn't gotten her on the herbiotic right away, I don't think she would have made it another day. And she's fine now. So that's one I keep on the shelf.
Amazing.
Our chickens have 9 lives.
Yes.
They do.
They really do.
We have Cropsol, which I use with animals that are in areas that are selenium or copper deficient. Real big problem when you have lactating livestock like dairy goats or sheep or things like that, where they are pulling, especially the dairy ones. The meat ones do too, but the dairy ones are producing way more milk than they normally would have produced to supply their kids. And so they strip minerals from their body incredibly fast. So they can go deficient really fast. So we use this for support. In dairy goats, I actually watch the pasterns, the rear ankle area below the ankle, between that and the hoof. It's called the pastern. And as soon as I get any dipping, I know that I am low on selenium and I need to tighten up those tendons. And so I can do it just by observation. Yeah.
Wow. And for anybody who's in Iowa, then.
And that's not me. Most producers can do that if they just have to be educated in it.
Yeah. Wow. I was going to say for anybody in Iowa, I do know our soil is deficient in selenium. We learned that with our goats, they're selenium deficient. And I do use that product as well. And it made a big difference, a huge difference in their skin and hair.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you go selenium deficient and you're breeding animals, you'll end up with stillbirths.
Oh, wow.
And the stillbirths are very hard to birth because they don't sequence correctly with their
Yeah.
hormones.
Wow.
Everything gets messed up. It's not, we used to have to pull calves with equipment. This is when they were just starting to learn about selenium in the 70s, and our cattle evidently were deficient. And we had a lot of problems. It took the vet a couple of years. Like I said, it was right when they were starting to begin to learn about that. So
Wow.
not something you want to go through. And I have ALG, so animals that are dealing with seasonal dust or other seasonal problems. Maybe usually it shows up in upper respiratory, like, runny eyes, runny nose, maybe some coughing, some sneezing, things like that. Then we go to that. And then Milkmaid I use with lactating stock if they need extra support or a boost. If your dog had 10 or 12 puppies, you might want to support the bitch. And to do that, then we would do like a better days to make
Okay.
sure she's getting the nutrition she needs. Plus, she'll pass some on to the puppies in the milk. And then we want to make sure we support her.
Hmm.
Besides calories, we want to, allow her to produce as much milk as she's physically capable of producing. It will not make them over milk. If they're not getting the calories to support that lactation, this is not going to push them past that. It's going to work with the body. That's what's nice with the products. They work with the body, unlike pharmaceuticals, which force or control the body.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they allow the body to choose. And then I don't have my pre-birth with me, which we give to support the body usually 1 to 2 weeks before birthing in pets and animals. And it just helps provide herbs that the body uses to help build a healthier reproductive system, to help them sequence with the hormones better, things like that. It just feeds that area. And that's called pre-birth. You don't have it here. I do have uterine, which we give the day of birthing. And again, it's that support to enable the animals to do a better job. Usually, what we have found is it enables their bodies to release placentas sooner, as in the afterbirth and things like that, which means I have less time in the barn. My animal's less likely to get an infection from a hanging afterbirth or get a tear, which in a goat destroys the uterus. You can't breed if you get a tear. Just different things like that. So, and helps. We've noticed that contractions seem to be really well timed and more efficient. It's not like a luteolase that forces, where they have a fast, furious, and difficult birth because, again, the chemical is controlling and forcing the body. This just provides what the body needs so it can be more efficient.
Yeah. Amazing.
Wow, this is all amazing. Which of these products would be more of you want people or the animals to use it on the daily, like more of supplementing? And which one is like, this is an emergency? And then if it's an emergency, do you use the whole bag or do
no.
you use it just a couple things? You go by the weight and you find the dosage. And then after a couple days when they're better, you stop and then you keep it on your shelf. Or which is the like keep going through the bags and keep reordering, you know?
That's a great question. So there's two types of situations that arise with human or animal health. You have chronic situations. Those are the annoying things that go on and on and on and on and on. Like I'm dealing with a chronic ankle that I actually sprained severely in January. Was caretaking for my mom who was in the process of leaving us because of cancer. And I
Sorry.
couldn't take a day off. I
Yeah.
was her caretaker.
Yeah.
I had to be on a severely sprained ankle. It is almost better, but because I had to stay on it for like 3 months
Yeah.
longer
Yes.
instead of getting off of it. And ankles, I can be walking on them again in 4 days with
Wow.
herbs. Ones you're supposed to stay off for 6 weeks, I can be walking on, and they're all the way better in 10 days. But I didn't have that opportunity with this. I did not get to take that time off. So because it was that kind of situation. But for emergencies, it's going to be this product.
The Herbiotic.
Oriented. and then whatever product it is that supports that part of the body.
Okay.
So if we have an injury, then we're always going to be paying attention for potential for infection, of course. And so we have this.
Oh, the herbiotic
Probiotic solve.
salve.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I give this orally. It's just and the capillaries to take it on the inner side. So we want to try to surround the enemy. And that's always a good battle tactic, right?
Yep.
Surround the enemy.
So that's the herbiotic, and that's more of an emergency.
Okay.
Like, have it on your shelf, but it's
Keep
kind of
it,
more of
have
that
it.
emergency product.
And we use that with any kind of skin stuff. So anything like that or any kind of injury. And then what we do is once we feel confident that the animal maybe is not going to head towards infection, then
then you use the Wonderful salve.
Wonderful.
and that
Such a good name.
encourages the body to heal itself. We also use it on memories to encourage them to heal themselves after using herbiotic first. Or burns. Again, we've had the crazy story I had was a baby goat that had lost all of the skin on its back and had burns over a large percentage of the body. Well, thankfully they had the salve on hand, because that's a situation where they could not wait for it to come in the mail, because that much pain and stress, because all the nerves are damaged. So there's incredible amounts of pain. Talk to anybody that's had a good burn.
Yeah.
They're so evil. Anyways, what's really nice with the salve, as long as they're built correctly, is it takes the oxygen off right away. And you get the pain off.
Yep.
And they sold this little goat while it was still healing, but they sent me a picture of it, and all that was left to know was there was a little scar ridge along part of the spine.
Oh.
Wow.
The goat otherwise was completely in fur, normal weight. It should have had scars all over the body.
Wow.
But again, that's not me. That's what God put in the plants. I just get to be the one that plays with them and assembles them, because I was blessed to be able to do my lifelong dream and get formal education in them. So
yeah,
that's cool.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, stuff like that. So there's two types of conditions. We have the chronic ones. And then we have like the burn that's acute. Usually most acutes are injuries, but they can be an illness. Illnesses can come on rapidly. They can be a chronic problem that's now gone septic or otherwise now has become really symptomatic. Like say like my ankle. If I woke up in the morning and couldn't walk tomorrow, that now is acute.
Yeah.
Right.
It was chronic, but now it's acute because it's really affecting my ability to do whatever, to live normally. So, and we dose different depending on that, because we have to remember the herbs do not stay in the bloodstream. There's not a half-life. The body's going to take what it needs, eliminates the rest. We don't have to worry about side effects or things building up to problems that way. But because of that, we need to meet body needs. So if we're working with an injury, we can kind of go by animal attitude, but usually with an acute situation, on most products, I'm going to triple dose. On the herbiotic, I'm not going to triple dose because this is really powerful. We don't want to drop blood sugar too low, things like that. We do have golden seal in here. We're only going to stay single dose always with herbiotic, but we're going to give it every 2 waking hours. I want at least 5 doses in that creature that first day. More fine, but sometimes people don't contact me till midday and it's like, well, we need to get 5 more doses in. But we're going to triple dose. And then days 2 and 3, we're going to triple dose 4 times a day. And Eleni can probably tell me how do we triple dose days 4 through 7?
Well, Amelia got better after the first 2 days, and I tried to keep it up, but I could only get about 2 doses in her a day once she went back out with the chickens, and that was enough for us. But I would have done more if I could have.
Yeah. Normally, to prevent us from relapsing, because we don't want to get them just a little bit better. We want to give them enough time to make sure they're better, because who wants to do that twice?
Yeah.
None of us. And it's always harder the second time to pull through because now we've got a fatigue factor and an adrenal system factor going on and a pain factor. If there was pain involved, animals will shut down after X amount of pain. Wow. So people do too. But anyways, we will normally give triple dose days 4 through 7. In most situations, that's sufficient. In autoimmunes or stuff, then we've got to, keep up some kind of dosage, but a lot of times it will only be 2 to 3 times a day after that. Usually it will be only a single dose at that. If we have a heavy parasite load, we've got to consider that acute. If we're symptomatic in a way that it's affecting quality of life at all, then we've got to hit it with acute.
Yeah.
First, and even if it's a chronic, sometimes I'll go, let's do acute for 1 day. I would if it were my animal. Yeah. And then take over with chronic. Just let's just pop it and kick it.
Yeah. And the doses.
Strong process.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the doses are on all the bags and some of the care instructions are on her website as well.
So it's pretty, okay. We're not just given a bag of plants and like go wild.
There's very specifics.
Good.
And I also email, it's kind of a weird spot to email it, but unfortunately the platform that my website is on, it's a little more old school platform. It's not old, but there are bells and whistles that I can't do with this site, and I am not techie. I've already admitted to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a one-person business.
Yeah.
I have to manage my website. Yeah. I have to do everything else. And so the site doesn't allow me to do certain things. So it doesn't it will auto respond when people order. But after that, I can't get it to do anything. Yeah. So I will put additional product and dosing information, but it ends up going in the tracking area. And it goes in the tracking area because it takes me 24 hours to have access to tracking numbers, because once I electronically transmit to the warehouse, and they will input them and do them, but the USPS website takes about 24 hours to actually access that information. Yeah. And it's just a United States Postal Service thing.
Yeah.
And that is something. We do ship Monday through Friday, except holidays. And we ship with the United States Post Office, flat rate priority, which we have found over and over again to be the fastest, most efficient, lowest cost way to get product to people. Okay. Every time we've tried to switch to DHL and FedEx, we're looking at 2 and 3 weeks with people getting products. And for more money sometimes, and that is not acceptable when you have an animal that needs products or a human that needs products, because I have another website that's completely human health.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I think we could talk with you for hours about everything, but
blown away.
But I think this would be a good place for us to start to kind of wrap the conversation up, because I want to respect your time too. I know you're a busy lady, Catherine, and wow, this has just been so informative, and we'd love to have you back on, because there's more that we didn't get to talk about today that we would love to talk to you about, especially with animal and human health.
Yes. In fact, I know that we talked about that you do the quantum energy healing and the reflexology and the diplomat of iridology. That one.
Iridology.
That one. Could we have you back to do a whole podcast of that?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, good. I'd love to, because I know we could do another hour 15 on that topic.
Absolutely.
So our listeners, you could keep on us for that one, because I'm so interested in, you are such a smart lady and you know so much, and I'm like, your knowledge, it's like you do have each animal's sickness, symptoms, how to heal. Like you are so, let's see, there's a book, The Accessible Pet Equine and something herb. I love it. Livestock Herbal. You have a book.
I do own that book.
Thick book. You own it.
I do own that book.
Your brain has all those words in it. Oh my word. Is that available probably on your website? Is it on Amazon?
On my website. It is on Amazon, but I encourage people to buy it on my website if they can, because the reason Mr. Bezos is so wealthy is he keeps almost all of your money.
Yes, he
Yeah.
is.
But I'm
yes.
required to have it on there to print where I print. So.
Yes, I've heard that. If I was Jeff Bezos, I'd be Batman. I'd save the world, but he just keeps his money. It's fine.
Yeah. So we'll link to all the products we talked about in this episode, and we'll definitely link some of those products, the GI Soother, the DWA. So for anybody who's listening to this episode and is wondering where they can get these products, we will have a link to Katherine's website, which is Fir Meadow LLC. We'll have that linked. Yes, Fir Meadow, FIR, like the tree, Fir Meadow LLC. So we'll link that, and we'll also link her products so that you can check them out. And I didn't even tell half of my stories today. And trust me, I have way more, but literally these products have been life-saving for our animals. If you have pets, whether they're indoor pets like dogs and cats, or you have, farm animals or what have you, I would recommend buying these products, having them on your shelves. I don't know why more people don't know about this, because they're honestly so powerful, so effective, have literally saved our animals' lives. I always am, as much as I can, like on our Instagram, for my farm Instagram, I'm always talking about her products. So I want to get the word out as much as possible, because I think people lose their animals or deal with sick animals or hurt animals or whatever for so long, not knowing there's another option out there that is so powerful and so effective. So I really just want people to know there is an option. Have them on your shelf. They really do work.
Amazing.
They do work. It's incredible.
Amazing. Katherine, I'm so happy that you exist on earth, and that you followed your dharma, and that you followed God's path for you, and that you leaned in, did the hard work, and created this business, and keep going with it, because this is really something special. And is there anything more that you want to share with our listeners before we go today?
I just wish you all a very blessed Merry Christmas, or if you celebrate other holidays like Hanukkah, that it's just the most amazing ever this year. Thank you for your interest in sustainable wellness. It's what I've dedicated my life to be able to offer you hope. And thank you for your time listening to this podcast or watching. And thank you, ladies. I appreciate you both so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being on. You are such a light in the world, Katherine, and we can't wait to have you back on again.
Yes. My mind is so blown. Katherine, when we're done, I just have to sit and think about all that you said, and then order. And then sometimes it just takes me a while to bring in such cool things.
Awesome.
So good. So, well, thank you for your wisdom, Katherine. And for our listeners, go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!